The Church of England has been at the heart of Jo Kind's life for as long as she can remember. As a child, she went twice every Sunday to St John's Church, Harborne, a suburb of Birmingham. Years later, the Reverend Tom Walker married Jo and her husband Steve and employed her as his PA. It was then that she saw a much darker side to a man who preached about the light of Christ.
He told me about the job, he told me what my duties would be, and then said that he had a problem with his libido, and that in order to rectify that, he had medical advice that he should be without his clothes as much as possible, and that he would see that as God giving him a gift, really. I nodded my acceptance because I didn't know what I was nodding my acceptance to.
How did it strike you, though? He said that he had to be naked in his job.
I became really concerned when he asked me not to tell his wife. And as the weeks went on, he would be walking around in various states of arousal, and it was deeply, deeply uncomfortable. My response to that was to shut it down and to shut down my emotions and to concentrate hugely on my work.
It wasn't until nearly 20 years later, after a conversation with a friend in 2008, that she officially complained. Now, a decade after that, the church has reviewed how it handled her allegations. But they refused to let her see their report unless she signed legal undertakings, a non-disclosure agreement or NDA, promising to keep it private.
I was not to speak about anything that had come up in the report that I didn't know previously. If I wasn't willing to sign that, then I wouldn't be allowed to see the report.
The Church of England has become embroiled in a series of clergy abuse scandals, and senior figures from the Archbishop down have repeatedly promised to put victims first. A 2012 inquiry ordered by the then Archbishop Rowan Williams into multiple failures in safeguarding in the Diocese of Chichester concluded that a confidentiality clause should never be included in any agreement reached with a survivor. It is essential that there is complete transparency about any abuse that has occurred. But has the Church forgotten that commitment? Senior figures are intent on keeping the report into Jo Kind's case under wraps. But we've now obtained a copy of it, and it's a searing indictment of how the Church dealt with her complaints. It says the Church fell short on a number of basic standards of complaint handling. It singles out the Bishop of Birmingham for criticism, saying that when he investigated Mrs. Kind's complaints in 2011, it was problematic because he lacked adequate knowledge of safeguarding and the capacity to manage the process.
His response was devastating. I think that the emphasis was on looking to check that I was healing rather than on answering the questions that I wanted answers to.
When the bishop himself interviewed the Reverend Walker in September 2011, the report found that he did not address all elements of the complaint, with the result that the vicar remained unaware of the exact nature of the allegation, including, crucially, that Mrs. Kind said the Reverend Walker was in a state of arousal. Why have you decided to name him today?
With enormous hesitancy, because I've been speaking about this, trying to talk about this for 10 years, and the fact that I am being silenced by an NDA are in order to make sure that he can't be identified.
So why have you decided to talk to us now?
Because I've asked for 10 years for the Church to speak up about this, and they haven't. And I thought that they would do with this review, and I thought that was the right and proper way to do it. I went through all the Church procedures, and I think I've reached the end of the procedures, and so I'm speaking to you now.
The Reverend Walker was rebuked in 2015 and died a year later. The Church has paid Mrs. Kind £40,000 after she launched a civil claim against them, but they admitted no liability. The Bishop of Birmingham wrote to her to apologise in September. And today the Church of England in Birmingham told us, "We are deeply sorry for the pain and distress these failings have caused." We have published the lessons learned from this review on our website. The decision not to publish the full report related to concerns regarding the safeguarding of the many contributors. They added, anyone wishing to see a redacted copy of the report can do so by request, and insisted safeguarding of all within our care is of paramount importance. Well, Reverend Walker's family told us today they regret any pain and distress suffered by Mrs. Kind. They said the vicar was a much-loved and respected parish priest, and he accepted some of his behaviour had been inappropriate when in poor mental and physical health. However, they say the complaint was resolved and allegations of sexually motivated behaviour were denied and unproven.